I see takes like this a lot, and it's exactly wrong. First of all, it's never a good look to advocate for death or loss of life. And secondly, the fastest and most efficient way to stabilize the population is to do the opposite. By first reducing infant mortality, uplifting the impoverished, and having access to education, especially for women. First, a little backstory. It took over 2 million years for the first billionth person to be born, somewhere around 1804. Then it took 123 years for the second billion to come about in 1927, then 33 years from then to come up with this third billion in 1960, and so on and so on and so on. So it's been a little over 200 years since the first billion, and here we are with 7.9 billion people on Earth. So you could honestly be forgiven for thinking that the world population will just keep growing exponentially till we get to a war or plague-like situation. But let me tell you about a thing called the demographic transition. The key driver of population growth is obvious. More people are being born than are dying, or fertility rate is higher than mortality rate. No country on Earth is thought to be in stage 1 today, but before the Industrial Revolution, every country was thought to be in stage 1 of 4, where populations are stable or barely increasing. Women had a lot of children on average, between 4 and 6 children, but with a high infant mortality rate, only 2 of them would make it to adulthood. And if 2 children are born per woman and make it to adulthood, then the population remains stable. Then countries we think of as developed today went to stage 2, or the developing countries stage. Agricultural advances met food supply demands, and advances in medicine and sanitation reduced infant mortality significantly. So stage 2 is characterized with a rapid increase in population. And a low infant mortality rate gets met with a culture that still has babies like they're not going to make it to adulthood. But then a turn happens in stage 3 and birth rates slow down with a changing social trend towards smaller families. It's a largely cultural change brought on by higher wages, urbanization, access to contraception, and importantly, access to education and higher social status for women. It's not as economically beneficial to have more kids in stage 3 because kids get sent to school instead of getting sent to work. And working women have less time to raise them. In stage 4, populations stabilize, birth rates and death rates are low, and roughly the same amount of people get born as die. Argentina, Australia, Canada, China, Brazil, most of Europe, Singapore, South Korea, and the United States have all made it to stage 4. And with more and more countries making it to stage 3 and stage 4, respectively, most models predict that the 12 millionth human will never be born. We'll certainly have more challenges to meet with more humans on the Earth, like it's about to fucking time people take climate change seriously. But calling on diseases and famine and war to regulate population just isn't it. Instead, populations regulate themselves when they're educated and uplifted, so that's what we should strive for. More education and more economic opportunity for everybody.